Okay, so as far as property approximations go, you know some of these things already. We've talked about the liquid approximation. Okay, we know that when we are going to be looking at substances and they are a liquid, we don't have a table for a liquid for R134A, R22 ammonia, and propane. And the table that we do have of water is when the pressure is very, very high. So the liquid approximation says that the specific volume at some temperature and pressure is approximately equal to the specific volume of the saturated liquid at the temperature that we're looking at. We've talked about this before. And the internal energy at the temperature and pressure that we're looking at is approximately equal to the internal energy of the saturated liquid at whatever temperature that we're concerned with. And that's the key thing here is the temperature. You have to remember that it's the temperature, not the pressure. Sometimes a problem statement can really make you feel like you should be using the pressure, but it's not, it's the temperature. That's the best approximation. So again, we're saying that properties don't change very much from saturation in liquids. But we go through this, and we're going to use this a lot. And almost every time you see a liquid in this class, unless it's very, very highly pressurized water, we are going to deal with this liquid approximation. Okay, talked about that before, mentioning it here again. Now, we didn't talk about enthalpy because enthalpy is a new idea. So let's look at what enthalpy, how we would do the liquid approximation for enthalpy. Okay, so enthalpy. Oops, let's change the color here. The enthalpy at some temperature and pressure is approximately equal to the saturated liquid enthalpy at some temperature plus pressure times the saturated liquid. Let me say this again. The enthalpy at temperature and pressure is approximately equal to the internal energy of the saturated liquid at the temperature that we're concerned about, plus the pressure times the specific volume at the temperature that we're concerned about. So again, this is using the definition of enthalpy, that H is equal to U plus PV. Okay, now, how we do this is actually this way. Enthalpy of temperature and pressure is approximately equal to enthalpy of the saturated liquid at the temperature plus VF at the temperature times P minus P sat at whatever temperature we're at. Okay, so just like specific volume is approximately equal to the specific volume of saturated liquid, internal energy is approximately equal to the internal energy of the saturated liquid, we wanted to say here, we wanted to rewrite this equation so it's the enthalpy is approximately equal to the enthalpy of the saturated liquid. But now we have to add this term over here. And this term, if you look in your equation sheet, I have double underlined because this term helps correct at low to moderate temperatures and pressures. Helps to correct at low to moderate temperatures and pressures. Okay, it doesn't do a lot at moderate to high. Okay, now what the situations that we're going to be dealing with in this class is often moderate to high pressures. And so for all intents and purposes in this class, we are going to follow the same rules that we did with internal energy and specific volume and say if we have a liquid, the enthalpy of the saturated liquid, the enthalpy of the liquid is approximately equal to the enthalpy of the saturated liquid at the temperature that we're concerned with. We don't have to worry about this correction that we're going to add on to it. In Thermo 2, you will have some situations where that's going to happen. And I'll let you know this. I'll tell you, if there's a problem that we have to correct the value, I'll alert you and let you know because you don't know right now what a low or moderate temperature and pressure is right now. But we will get, again, we'll get a better grasp of that as we go on here. So just remember these three things. This one here, and this one here. All on your equation sheet, all for you to use. The last thing we're going to talk about today before I let you loose is something called the incompressible substance model. The incompressible substance model. Okay, and I don't think it'll come to a shock to you that incompressible substance model will be used when substances are incompressible. Now, what can we say is incompressible? We're going to say incompressible. Of course, we're going to say anything that's a solid. So if you have a problem and it deals with copper or iron or any kind of metal, you're going to use the incompressible substance model. You're going to notice we don't have tables in the back of our book for the properties of iron at 100 degrees Celsius, the properties of aluminum at 300 degrees Fahrenheit. We don't have those properties. We're going to have to use the incompressible substance model. But we also should know that liquids, in particular water, is also considered incompressible. That's why if you ever heard that water hammer effect in your house, that's what's happening, because that water is so incompressible. I mean, we're talking about in the gigapascals it's needed to actually compress water. So for all intents and purposes, we are going to model water as an incompressible substance. You hearing me say this word model? You know how we've been putting this model into our homework formatting? Now it's going to actually formally come in. This is our first official, I think this is our first official model that we've had in this class. Okay? So, again, when using liquids or solids, the specific volume is often assumed to be constant and will only vary with temperature. Sorry, I missed this. So I'm trying to read something here. When using liquids or solids, specific volume is often assumed to be constant, and internal energy will only vary with temperature. I left out internal energy. Internal energy will vary with temperature, but the specific volume will not. Think about that. Think about this in the situation. Iron. That iron will not change its volume or its specific volume very much, but its internal energy will change with temperature. Again, you think about the water that you have in the pot. Its volume won't change, but its specific volume, but its internal energy will change with temperature. Okay, I want to I kind of flubbed some of those things, so make sure you follow what I'm trying to say there. So let's look at the definition here. Let's recall something. We're going to recall that C sub V is equal to du all over dt. Now, here's what we're doing. I'm only using an ordinary derivative, d, instead of the partial derivative, because now C sub V in the incompressible substance model only varies with temperature. I'm not have to worry about that for constant volume. That's out of the situation. I don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to be dealing with an ordinary derivative. That may be something that you really are interested in or you just don't care about, but that's how it works. Okay. We also know that the enthalpy at some temperature and pressure is equal to the internal energy at that temperature plus pressure times specific volume. Now notice here, I'm using parentheses, and this is where the derivation makes sure that you pay attention. I'm not saying internal energy times temperature. I'm saying internal energy as a function of temperature. Internal energy as a function of temperature. Enthalpy as a function of temperature and pressure. Okay? Now, if we look over here, we see that this pressure and volume, well, this is going to be constant at some pressure. Okay, for the incompressible substance model, the volume and specific volume is not going to change. And so if we have a set pressure, that term is going to be constant. So what we're going to do here is we're going to differentiate with respect to temperature. Okay, we're going to do this. And if we do this, we're going to say that the enthalpy with respect to temperature, keeping my pressure constant, is going to be equal to the internal energy with respect to temperature. Now notice here I have a partial derivative, dH, because enthalpy is a function of temperature and pressure, and here on the other side, internal energy is only a function of temperature, so I have an ordinary derivative. But what this is showing, and I don't want to get caught up in the whole calculus of things, what this is basically showing you here is that C sub P is equal to C sub V. So for an incompressible substance, C sub P is equal to C sub V. Okay, now, we've shown this mathematically, an equation-like. Let's talk about this with common sense. Remember what we said for C sub P, the specific heat at constant pressure, and what we said about C sub V, the specific heat at constant volume. The energy required to change the temperature 1 degree. Well, solids are not going to change its volume, and they're not going to change its pressure. There's nothing there. They're just solids. And so it makes sense to you that in an incompressible substance, because the volume is not changing for an incompressible substance, that these things should be equal. The same amount of energy would be added to them in these situations. And so we've shown it mathematically, and we can reason through it because we're very intelligent people. Okay. Now, C sub P for solids, if we go back to our table here, go to our document camera, as you notice, for solids, which is in this solids and liquids, you can notice we only give C sub P, the specific heat at constant pressure. That's what they provide you with in this table. It doesn't matter to us because C sub P is equal to C sub V for solids. So we just provide one, but notice it's the same for, it can be the same for both. Okay. Other thing I want to say is, it's constant over a limited range of heats, of temperatures. Limited range of temperatures. So if I go back here, I see that for water, you can see it's 4.211 at the temperature's 275, and it's 300, it's 4.179, and 325, it's 4.182. So it does, your specific heat does change with temperature. It does change with temperature, but it's in a pretty good range there, okay? It's a pretty good range there, okay? So let's see, how are we going to use this? Well, we have said that the specific heat C, because I'm just going to call this C. I don't have to call it C sub P or C sub V. I'm just going to call it specific heat because specific heat at constant pressure is equal to the specific heat at constant volume. C is equal to du over dt. Okay, I'm going to separate some variables here and say that du is equal to the specific heat times dt. Okay, now let's integrate this from 1 to 2 and from 1 to 2. Okay, what are we going to have here? We're going to have the internal energy at state 2 minus the internal energy at state 1 is going to be equal to the integral from temperature 1 to temperature 2 of the specific heat times dt. Now, specific heat, we know, is a function of temperature. It is a function of temperature. I probably should put this everywhere. We know it's a function of temperature. It does change with temperature. But we said that it's constant over a range of, a short range here. So if we consider, or if we model, or if we assume that specific heat is constant over the temperature range that we're concerned about, temperature range, T1 to T2, if it's constant, we can take it out of the integral, right? And we can get U2 minus U1 is equal to the specific heat times T2 minus T1. Okay, that is an assumption. But we're already modeling it as incompressible substance, and so that seems like it's a reasonable thing we can do. So if we get an equation where we have delta U is equal to Q minus W, first law, we can, if we see it's an incompressible substance, we can write here, this should be capital U, we can write mass times U2 minus U1 is equal to Q minus W. And if we're saying we're going to follow the incompressible substance model, we can replace everything in here, mass times the specific heat times T2 minus T1. Okay, that's what we're going to be looking at. Now, we know that the specific heat does change a bit. And you're given two temperatures, T2 and T1. what temperature do you use to assume to look up what C is, what your specific heat is? Okay, there's many different things you could do. You could look it up at T1, you could look up at T2. It really doesn't really matter. But what a good method would be to look up your specific heat at the average temperature, right there smack dab in the middle. Assume that the average temperature is going to give you the average specific heat. And you may move up and down a little bit off that, but that's going to give you a pretty good number as we're dealing with this model, as we're following up. So this is how we use it in the equation. Now, enthalpy is handled the same way, and I'm not going to go into I'm not going to go and do the integral for you. It's not that big of a deal, but we can say that H2 minus H1 is going to equal from T1 to T2 of specific heat, which is a function of temperature, times dt, plus the specific volume, which is constant because it's constant, it's incompressible, P1 to P2 of dP. And when we work with this and we expand it out, if we assume constant specific heat, just kind of how we did before, H2 minus H1 is equal to the specific heat times T2 minus T1 plus the specific volume times P2 minus P1. And this term here is usually very, very small. And because it's very small, all we really concerned ourselves with is this first term. And so you can notice this first term, H2 minus H1 is equal to the specific heat times T2 minus T1, is almost exactly the same, is exactly the same as C sub, or what we found for our change in internal energy. So for incompressible substances, the change in enthalpy is equal to the change in internal energy. Okay. Now we're going to practice this. We're going to use this. You have a homework assignment tonight. One of those assignments deals with this. We're going to talk about this extensively in the help session that we're going to have, the in-class session on Friday. So if you can't make it, I would encourage you to at least watch this portion of it, because I think it will help clarify some things. I'm glad we get the opportunity to work some problems to be able to understand this better. Okay, with that, I will end today's lecture, and we will have your homework out there ready for you, and have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you on Friday.